Thanks for holding on and waiting in the wings while we got ourselves together. Really appreciate it. This week, Special Olympics is celebrating Spread the Word Inclusion Week. Justin and Jim are going to be leading the charge tonight and talking about the World Games and the strong relationship Special Olympics has with ESPN. And we have a great guest for you all tonight who works for Special Olympics. Not only that, but he has a great background with the Olympic and Paralympic Games themselves. Jim.
Good evening and welcome to the Justin and Jim Sports Talk Show. My name is Jim Downs and I'm an athlete from St. Mary's County. I'm proud to say I have been a Special Olympics athlete for 27 and a half years. I enjoy doing the show and I hope everyone finds it interesting and continue to learn new sports facts.
Justin.
Good evening and welcome to the show. My name is Justin Hunsinger and I am an athlete leader from Montgomery County. I have been involved in Special Olympics since 2014 and I play basketball, softball, soccer, and golf. I'm happy you all could join us for a great evening of sports talk. Lauria, Chief of Sport and Competition at SOI, is part of the team that leads the global development of sport, manages the Special Olympic World Games, and serves as a resource hub of strategic support for additional competitions. He has over 24 years of international sport and major event experience from multiple industry perspectives, including roles within the International Paralympic Committee and International Olympic Committee (IOC). Lauria started his career with the Olympic and Paralympic Games organizing committees of Atlanta 1996, Sydney 2000, and Salt Lake 2002 in a range of roles in sport and venue operations. He then went on to work for the IPC in games planning before moving to the IOC, where he worked on the television and marketing services team managing global partnerships.
Lauria serves on the USA Weightlifting Board of Directors and the Emerson College Alumni Board. He previously served on the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence Board of Directors. He is a recovering runner who has completed several marathons, including Chicago and New York City, before realizing there are easier ways to see a city in the rain. You have stepped in the Olympic movement from the very beginning of your career. Was that always your intent to be part of the Olympics when you were growing up?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jim. And thanks everybody for having me. Really, really happy to be here. I was very excited to get the invitation. But you know, it's funny, I was talking to Donna DiVerona, one of our board members and longtime supporter of the Special Olympics movement. And Donna used to be a broadcaster and she worked on this show that the older folks might remember, like I remember as a kid, called Wide World of Sports. And I remember I watched Wide World of Sports every Saturday on ABC and was mesmerized by international sport, by things taking place all over the world. And I think I just fell in love with that. I fell in love with the Olympics. I fell in love with, just the whole thing. I had a curiosity. So I went to school originally thinking I was going to do what you guys are doing, host a radio show or host a TV show. And then I realized that that wasn't really what I had a skill set in. So I moved into planning events and just having a lot of fun. It's been great.
Do you have a favorite moment in the Olympics or a favorite Olympics games? What stands out about that particular games?
Sure, there's a couple. One that comes to top of mind pretty quickly is in Sydney in the Olympics in 2000. There was a woman named Kathy Freeman who was an Aboriginal athlete, and she was favored to win the 400 meters. And there was a lot of pressure on her leading up to it. Australia's in a similar situation with reconciliation and having conversations, historical conversations. And Freeman represented this great moment in Australian sports history. She lit the cauldron at opening ceremonies, just had the weight of the world on her shoulders. And I was at the Olympic Stadium, that was my venue in Sydney. And she won the gold medal. And it was just 117,000 people in the stands. And it was just a fantastic moment. So I would say from an Olympic perspective, that would probably be my favorite moment. If we could talk Special Olympics, I could probably tell you some of my Special Olympics favorite moments, if that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. In Chicago, I thought the Unified Cup, the level of competition in the Unified Cup and the preparation that the athletes put in to come and compete in the Unified Cup was absolutely a highlight. I love the triathlon in Abu Dhabi, was a fantastic event. I love MATP. I think MATP is something that's underrated and maybe doesn't get enough awareness or enough sort of notoriety. So yeah, and I just love, it's funny, I love not having a skill in a certain sport, but developing an appreciation for that sport. I think is part of the great thing about this role, where you get to see a lot of different sports and you can develop an appreciation for different sports.
What was it a natural transition from the Olympics to Special Olympics?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I'd always had friends who worked in Special Olympics. Like I remember meeting John Paul St. Germain, who's on our team, and Osa Torheim and others, and Lee Todd and others that were around for a long time. They would come to the Paralympics, they'd come to the Olympics. I remember having conversations, keeping in touch. They'd be looking for host cities. I'd see if I could help. So I was always aware of the Special Olympics. If you grow up in the US, like I did in New York, you're always aware. I mean, the transition, I think, has been, I mean, obviously we're a smaller organization and sort of less resource. So there's, more challenges, but I think there's opportunities to make impact. Of course, I think there are opportunities to make more impact. The Olympics move slowly and it's complicated and there's a lot of money invested. So it's a little bit harder to make change. I think some of the things we've been able to do, we can see real change being made. And it's been, I got to say, I've never had more fun. Great group. The more time I get to spend with the athletes, the better I'm going to be, and just enjoying it. So this is fantastic.
What are the similarities between the two groups and what are some of the differences?
That's a great question. And I tell you, we just had a moment where we did this United Through Sport campaign. There was this event back in November and Mary was part of it. And it was the first time that the IOC, the IPC, and SOI were all patrons of this sports event, this Unified Through Sports event. And it was a really nice sort of step, because in the end, these three great movements, and they're all fantastic in their own right, all really want to do the same thing. It's all about providing an opportunity for people to use sport for the betterment of society, health, build friendships, relationships, and whether the athlete is a wheelchair athlete or whether the athlete has an intellectual disability or whether they don't, the premise is all the same. So all the movements are working in the right direction and trying to show the value of sport and how sport can be a vehicle for a great social change. So it always had an interest, and I got to say I'm pretty lucky because I don't think there are a whole lot of people that have had a chance to, have their hand in and help out with all three. So it's I've got great respect for all of them and a lot of friends in all of them. So yeah, it's good.
Thank you.
World Games are always a hot topic in Special Olympics. Can you describe the process of how cities are selected or sites are selected?
Absolutely, Jim. Happy to. So it's an interesting time right now, and we're actually in a very fortunate place with Kazan and Berlin, and we have bids in now for 2025, and we're talking to 2027 cities. So we're getting out in front of it a little bit more. And I have some experience before Special Olympics. I worked for about 7 years with an agency that worked on bids. So we worked on the Russia World Cup bid, the Pyeongchang Olympic Winter Games bid, and just multiple big event bids. So we would go in and work with the bidder and help develop their bid. So I've seen it from the bid side for 7 years. I've seen it from the property side where I was at the IPC and the IOC. In coming to Special Olympics, the first thing we needed was a little bit more of a process. We needed to better articulate the value that we bring to countries and to cities. And Abu Dhabi is a great example. And this was right before I arrived. But Abu Dhabi, my first day was the day of that board meeting when they awarded the games to Abu Dhabi. So that night I went into my hotel, got on the internet and looked up Abu Dhabi and their national strategy. So they have a strategy related to the year 2030 as what they're trying to do as a country through schools, through healthcare, through sport, and all this social change they're trying to implement. So that country has a lot of money and they were investing it in social change. They looked at our event as a fantastic platform, right, to drive what they were trying to do as a country, to bring 200 countries and 7,000 athletes from all over the world, to have host town reach all over their small country, and to bring this out into the community served as a great platform, because otherwise it was a document that was probably, I don't know, 100 pages long, and it was just words on paper, and they might be doing some things, but to bring this event and to have the lead up to this event for 2 years and then deliver a great World Games was fantastic. So our goal is to fundamentally try and find countries that are investing in the work that we do, that have a commitment towards making their society better. And then our event is such a great fit. And you'll see a legacy with that type of event because that country is going in that direction anyway. Whereas if you just take your event and bolt it onto the side of a country that maybe is looking at it more transactionally, more as, well, we bring some people in and some tourism and okay, it's okay, you're only going to get minimal benefit. You'll get a long legacy if your host is your partner and they're going in the direction that you're trying to go. So from a process perspective, sorry, back to Jim's question, it was a long answer, but from a process perspective, we've started earlier. We look to award the games a little more than 4 years so that you have a chance to see the one before you. That's really important, that you have a chance to observe what you're being asked to do and to spend time and to learn. So we try and award a little bit before 4 years to go. So we'll award 2025 this June, and then that organizing committee will be able to attend Kazan. So it gives them a full period to plan. And we have done a better job of articulating the full value because people don't know about the great work in health, the great work in athlete leadership, the great work in schools that we do. They just know sport, most people. So having to educate people, and we always tell bidders that if you're thinking about a bid and you're only talking to the sports minister or your sort of sports entity, you're doing it wrong. You need to have health, social development, you need to have education. Everybody needs to be in the room because we bring something that can lift everybody across the country.
How do you pick the sports for a particular World Games?
How do we pick the sports? So there's a sports program that has been established and we're taking a look at that. And then it's a matter of finding a partner that those sports are relevant in their country. Like in the case of the UAE, they don't play softball. They didn't have a softball facility. We're not typically going to go in and ask somebody to build a facility for a sport that they don't play. So from a sustainability perspective, it's important that we work with the host on sports that fit for that country. So we're constantly looking at the sport program. We're doing something else now where it used to be a list of recognized sports and official sports, but nobody could really tell you what that meant. So now our sport team, we go through the census and we look at how many programs practice the sport, how many athletes, how many regions, male athletes, female athletes. We're starting to take that data. And then year over year, you can start to see sports that are trending up, through our work with badminton, through our work with the floorball federations. Those sports are picking up because the partnerships are developing in countries and getting more rackets or floorball sticks in people's hands. So it's an ongoing process, as you see with the Olympics. If we want to turn back to the Olympics, it's constantly evolving. They have surfing and skateboarding on. I know MMA is trying to get on and other sports. So it's a constant evolution of trying to stay relevant, trying to stay, sort of youth oriented to sports that people are doing. So I guess another long answer. Sorry again.
What are you looking forward to in 2022 Kazan and 2023 Berlin?
Fantastic. So Kazan, as some of you might know, we were supposed to go to Sweden. That's who had been awarded the games, and they were supposed to be in 2021. The Swedish government, the funding didn't come through, so we had to move the games. Russia was able to put the funding together, and the city of Kazan is fantastic. I've been fortunate enough to work there, and in other contexts, I worked on bids and other projects there. But it's a big university town. It's considered the sports capital of Russia, and Russia's a very large country. Special Olympics Russia has a tremendous opportunity to expand the work they do in all the provinces and regions in Russia, to really sort of grow their program and bring more athletes into Special Olympics. So there's a real great legacy opportunity for Special Olympics Russia. And then Russia sort of has a sphere of influence, if you would, in some of that region of the world. So we're hoping that as Special Olympics Russia is elevated to take the next step as a program, that it's going to help some of their neighbors be able to generate more funding, more awareness, and lift those programs that are surrounding Russia. And they look to Russia for their leads as far as, you know, how they do things. And then Berlin is fantastic. If you guys haven't had a chance, and I can share this with you guys, it's public. The Berlin bid for 2023, they did this great thing where everybody's going to do this now. We've been talking this up. They had their national games, and the German national games are 4,000 athletes. It's like a USA Games. They're a big event. And they surveyed all of the athletes to ask the athletes what they were looking for out of a World Games in Germany. So they got Mark Solomeier and a bunch of the other athlete leaders who are fantastic. And in the bid, there's several pages of what the athletes are seeking to get out of the games being hosted in Berlin. There's athlete representation on all the committees. When I was last there, they did a presentation where one of the athletes' working groups was talking about doing something with the athletes that came to World Games around cooking and culinary. So maybe they'll take a restaurant, open up the kitchen, and offer cooking classes in German food, which I thought was kind of a cool idea. So the athletes are completely involved. We have an assistant TD who's going to be an athlete in Germany, but the athletes are 100% involved in Berlin. And I think you're going to look at the World Games and the movement, and you're going to say there was athlete leadership, and then there's athlete leadership after Berlin, because they're going to take it to the next level. It's a fantastic bid. They're a sports-minded country, and they're going to do a tremendous amount for us. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Lou, we just wanted to share that we have a Maryland athlete going to Kazan who's on the call tonight, Elena Camacho. So,
Oh, fantastic.
Just wanted to give her
Great
props.
Sure, great city, great venues, good transportation system, big education city. The first trip I took there, they gave me a tour of the university, and Lenin studied there, and they had his classroom all there and everything. It's a real cultural and historic city, and it's a real melting pot too. It's very diverse. It's actually probably my favorite city in Russia. I've spent a lot of time in Russia, so you'll enjoy Kazan. They're good people.
How has COVID?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I see Elena in the chat. Snowshoe is probably, snowshoe and floorball are probably the only two winter sports I can do. I'm not an alpine guy. I don't like to go fast, but I lived in Utah for a while when I worked on Salt Lake. Love snowshoeing. So I'll see you out there, Elena. That'd be cool.
How has COVID impacted your efforts by you, your team, and the GOCs on making these games happen?
I got some gray hair now, and I'm hoping by the end of this I still have some hair. It has been probably one of the more challenging situations. You know, you have COVID as one element. You've got the geopolitical element with Russia and the US that everybody's aware of. It has been challenging, but what we're doing and the process we have in place is a good one. So we've got a structure established where we're working with all 7 regions, including your region, Sona. We're getting updates from the regions as to what the timelines for programs look like. When do people are they worried about funding? Because funding's an issue. What are the deadlines related to travel? So we're aggregating all of that information to figure out. In June, we're going to have a detailed briefing on Kazan and see where we are in June. And then in September, we'll make a decision on what the event looks like. And we'll work. I got to say this about the folks in Kazan too. They hosted the World University Games, which is an event just as large as ours, actually larger. They hosted the World Cup. They've hosted FINA World Championships. They've hosted many international events. What they did after 2013, when I was working over there, is they established a 200-person organization that functions as a standing organizing committee. So most places, like Berlin, they had to build an organizing committee. And that's typically how it happens. You build an organizing committee, you hire guys like me or other people, and then you work. These guys have a standing organizing committee. And when the events come in, they have a team of transport people, accommodation people, sports people, venues people, and they just assign people to the events. So a tremendous amount of experience. And we're very fortunate in a short period of time that we have with them that they didn't have to start from, okay, now we hire one person, now we hire two people, that they had 200 people with tremendous experience. Another good sign with them, which was interesting, is when we approached them about the test events coming off of Sweden and knowing they didn't have much time, we only asked them to test the snow sports or the alpine sports. Sorry, we wanted them to test snowboarding and skiing because we didn't know what experience they had in those sports. They came back and wanted to do all the sports. So we said, well, you don't have to do all the sports. That's a lot, you know? And their answer was, we want to learn more about Special Olympics athletes. We want to learn more about the movement. So they did more than they had to. And they're having a floorball event. I believe it's in May. They're going to have a Russian floorball event. We can't have international athletes. It'll be Russian athletes. So they went above and beyond more than we asked them, just to try and get to know the movement and know what was different about our event from a swimming world championship per se.
Our producer, RJ Nealon, did an internship with ESPN when he was in school at the University of Alabama, and it changed his life. The partnership with ESPN has been a game changer for Special Olympics. In your mind, what is the greatest impact ESPN has had on Special Olympics?
I mean, they tell sports stories. They are fantastic at telling stories. The 50 for 50 series was great. And when they get a hold of a story, they can tell stories. There's so many of them that are my favorites, but I love the story about Andrew, the runner from Special Olympics Indiana. I thought that 50 for 50 feature on him was great. But ESPN can tell stories. And I think they can tell stories, and they're telling our story as part of an overall sports story. Like I said before, we have 6 million athletes. We're athletes like anybody else are athletes. We're doing sport like anybody else is doing sport. So what ESPN represents as a brand, as a broadcaster and a media company, they're telling our story like they're telling every other athlete's story. And that's important as well. But they've been a great partner. The team does a great job. There's a bit of competitiveness of getting on this project. I went up to Bristol and talking to them, like, to be able to work on this project actually means something to the people that are involved, because these people work on, championship tournaments and games and events, and you get sort of numb to it. It's every day. But when they get to work on our event, you could see the impact it's had on people on that team.
Thank you, Lou.
I love Andrew's story. That's a fantastic story.
Let me reverse that question a bit. What is the greatest impact Special Olympics has had on ESPN?
That's a good question. I think, part of it goes to the people. I think part of it goes to the people on that side that come to the games, be it on the production side or on the honored guest side. I think it's the interaction. You talk, Kevin, the guy that went to Temple. I'm a Temple guy myself, but Kevin Nagandi and those guys, and you listen to them. This is not a show. They're not sort of putting this on. What we do is unique and has a certain element to it that people gravitate to. And you see it, you see other athletes, that get involved with our movement because it speaks to them. And it's, they might not have an intellectual disability, but hey, maybe when they were a kid, it all sort of wasn't working, or they were a tall kid and people were picking on them, or they were, not, and everybody sort of finds that there's a sense of sort of camaraderie and openness and welcoming that we bring. And I think people gravitate to that. I think it's important to people. And yeah, it's I think that's what we bring to ESPN and that whole sort of community.
What would be your advice to Special Olympics athletes that dream of being involved with ESPN in the future?
It's a good question, and maybe RJ could help out a little bit with that as well. I would say, work hard. That's what I wanted to do when I went to school. So continue to work hard. I think things like what you guys are doing, podcasts and getting as much experience as you can get. We can always use more of that. One of the goals we're going to try and do at World Games in Berlin and in the future is get more athletes involved, telling stories. Even the collection of statistics is something that we don't do. And it's I understand the challenges, but we did it in Sweden with floorball for the invitational games. We're going to do it in Berlin with a couple of sports. We work with the International Federation. They provided us with the statistical software. So we want to be able to talk about, hey, RJ, scored 16 points and Jim had 8 rebounds and Justin won 6-3, 6-love and got a bunch of his first serves in. We want to be able to tell those stories because when RJ is a sports journalist, But when sports journalists write, you got to sort of say, hey, it was this, and then we had this, and here are the numbers, and here are the results. It's, we live in a data-driven world, and people want to see the numbers, and that's how you measure yourself. I mean, in training, competition really is only the evaluation of your training. It's nothing more than that. You train for 12 weeks. If you take, 30 seconds off your time, if you're a runner, the competition is just a test of that, and you're working towards something. So if we can have more data points as we sort of continue to go, that'll be great. And I think that's important from a sport perspective. The other thing I'll say about Berlin is sport is absolutely primary. The Special Olympics Germany is viewed as a sport organization in Germany, and the quality of sport is incredibly important. They made that known up front, that they're going to be viewed by the media and by the public from a sport perspective. So we're going to see good sport there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim and Justin. I think we have some questions from our audience, if we can go there. And I know Joe's been waiting very patiently, so I'm going to go to Joe first. Joe, you ready?
How are you?
Good, Joe. How you doing?
Pretty good. Question. You talk about Russia Kazan. They have a loan first officer, like a first leg touchdown. I have a question. Ask you this question.
We'll have LETR in Kazan. Is that what the final leg? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
The guy have the athletes like be like touchdown, like a first leg touchdown for the athlete.
I will have the LETR, the final leg, like we always have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will. That's so that the planning is going on for that. We will have that.
Thank you, Lou. Because I want to ask that question too. My second question is, how to organize the how to process all the international like a sports event, like a war game. How do you process it?
How do you process it? I mean, like the general organization of it?
Right, general organization, yes.
Sure. So we provide now, and there's a woman on my team, Kim Wittes, who's led a lot of this and has done a tremendous amount of work over the last 4 years, to where we have real technical requirements when we go in that we provide to bidders, and they know our venue specifications, our accommodation, transport, our non-sport events, our requirements for healthy athletes. So we provide those requirements when people are bidding. They construct their bid, and then we evaluate their bid. And we've changed up a little bit the way we evaluate the bid now. Now we have a program representative evaluating on the evaluation team. So for this next one, we have Sharon Bolenbach from Canada's on. We always have an athlete representative. We have an athlete from Australia who's on. We have a families member, a representative of the family. So we always have the representatives who are going to be basically working and getting the services from the organizing committee as we evaluate. And then the bids are evaluated on how, a lot of it's about their mission and vision and what they see for a legacy for the games. And then a lot of it is on the operational elements. Do they have a big enough airport? Do they have enough accommodation? Does their transport plan seem solid? And the other thing we look for too is, what are they doing in this space? What are they doing for people with intellectual disabilities or people with disabilities? What are they doing in education? Because I always think it's important, again, going back to finding a partner that's moving in the direction you're moving. Because sometimes people would submit a bid and say they'll do some things, and then when it comes down to it, it never really sort of happens. So you want to feel confident in your partners, right? You want to feel confident that your partner is moving in the same direction. But yeah, sorry, Joe, again, a long answer.
Thanks, Joe. Elena Camacho.
Hi, Lou.
Hey,
Thank
Elena.
you for coming here. And I'm very much looking forward to going to Kazan. I think we're 9 months out now from the games. My first question is, how do they design the logo and like the motto for the games? And what would your advice be for me taking in the whole World Games next year, from competition to the culture?
Sure. And the logo, go back to the visual identity or the logo. We have some requirements around the logo about how the Special Olympics logo is incorporated. And then in Kazan, they took, and it's the first time they've used it, they have this dragon that wraps around the logo, and they have a snow leopard and a dragon are like very important to the people at Tatarstan. And the first time they've used the dragon in this type of situation for an event. And the dragon is a dragon that protects the people it's hardest on. It's a welcoming dragon. So they incorporated that in. And then there's a woman on the communications team that reviews that type of stuff. And then, we get it approved by Mary and Tim and they take a look at it. I'm not very involved in that, which is good because I'm not the guy you want picking out stuff like that. I don't have any taste. And then as far as the city itself, I would say, obviously work as hard as you can towards being prepared to do the best you can do at your event. That's obviously first and foremost, but then just enjoy it. Enjoy the opening ceremony, enjoy walking in with the US team to an arena that'll be packed with 10,000 people. Enjoy meeting athletes from other countries, read up what you can. There's a bunch of cultural activities. They have a Kremlin right on the river there. That's beautiful. There's some cool museums. It's a fantastic city. So enjoy. It's a very wide open city. It's not heavily congested. So it's not a lot of skyscrapers. There's a lot of open space and it's lower density. So it's absolutely beautiful. Hopefully we'll have some snow. The food's good. So it'll be fun. Absolutely. And I'll look for you on the snowshoeing course.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Elena. We're going to go to Derek.
Hey, Lou, just wanted to thank you for coming tonight. And I actually want to let you know that I'm also working on doing a podcast as well called Hamburg's Huddle. So, yep. And my question is, how do they determine where the game's gonna be? Do they have a committee that looks around different candidates, cities, and then they narrow it down?
Yeah, so I think the question was, how do we sort of identify cities? So we're getting ready now and we're already in 2 conversations for 27. So we're at the point now where we're getting approached, which is a good sign. But we'll do outreach. So we'll work with the 7 regions. We're working on materials now for later this month. We'll send letters out to the regions to pass down to the programs. And we're changing things up a little bit. What we're gonna do is, and we're following the Olympics and rugby and some others who are doing this, instead of necessarily focusing on a specific event, we're gonna invite cities in, invite programs in for a dialogue. So to say, hey, what are you interested in? And it's not going to be about the 2026 Unified Cup necessarily, or the 2031 Winter Games or Summer Games. It's going to be a general conversation. And then when we find matches and we say, oh, this would actually work well for us, then we'll get into more detailed conversations. So our goal, and we're seeing more interest, our goal is to bring as many people in. If you think about it, if you had a shop, Derek, if you and I ran a coffee shop, we'd want to bring as many people in and not try and sell them a muffin or a croissant or anything. Bring them in, have a conversation, figure out what they might like, and then sit down and get into some detail. So, and I'll say this about the bidding. It used to be in the old days that it was about broadcast and media. How much media do you get? How will my city look? It used to be about economic impact, and it's still about those things, but now it's about the stuff that we do and the stuff that makes our movement great. Now it's about social impact, how you make our community better, how you make our community more understanding. What can you do for health for people with disabilities? What can you do around education? So we have definitely become part of a conversation that, frankly, when I was working on bids years ago, it was not part of the conversation. So it's a very good time for us right now to be out there and to be talking to cities. And that's thanks to all of you athletes, actually. So cool. Thanks for your question, Derek. And good luck with the podcast, dude.
Bailey.
I'm the county rep for my county. So I got a question. Which year did you begin Special Olympics?
Sure. So I met Mary Davis, who's our CEO. I met her in Rio at the Rio Paralympics. So I went down to the Rio Paralympics to help out the IPC and see some friends. And Mary and I met for a cup of coffee through Dennis Doolin, who Dennis and I worked in Sydney years ago. And then Mary and I went to the opening ceremonies together, and we had a nice time at the opening ceremonies. It was fantastic. And then she called me up probably about, 6 weeks later and said there was an opportunity to come and work on the competition side. So I took that opportunity to move in and work with the competition team. And then after Abu Dhabi, there was an opportunity to bring sport and competition back together. And I got to say, I'm very, very fortunate. I walked into a team that it was a really nice mix. Had a lot of people with a lot of experience, and I had a lot of people who were, bringing outside perspective and younger people. So our team is a great mix. And it's been fantastic. Yeah, it's really, really been good. Hey, Bailey, what county are you in?
It's Hutchinson. I'm from St. Mary's County.
Where's
That's
that? What's that near?
Do you know where DC is? Southeast from
Okay.
south.
Cool.
It's 60 miles south
Okay.
east from DC.
All
Okay.
right, good. Thanks, Bailey. Thomas Smith.
Thank you for coming tonight. Do you need shots or vaccine to go to the games?
I didn't hear the last part of the question. I heard, and thanks for having me on, Thomas. I'm happy to be here. Do you said, do you need what now to go to the games?
Do you need,
Talk loud.
do you need shots or vaccine to go to the games?
No, as of now, our health team is not requiring that people have the vaccine. I mean, people make their own decisions. So, and I know the IOC on the Olympic side is not requiring the vaccine. So we're not requiring the vaccine. It's everybody's personal choice. People have to make their own decisions. There won't be a requirement. And right now there's not a requirement in Russia. So we're monitoring the situation. Hopefully the situation gets better, and it seems to be trending that way, but we are not requiring people to get vaccinated.
All right, thanks, Thomas. Nicholas, you have a question?
What could you tell us? Are you on the committee for the national games and down in Disney, and what you could share about those?
Sure. So we work real closely with Greg and the SONA team. In fact, we had a call yesterday. We sort of collaborate. A lot of the materials that we created, the SONA team is modified, and we're sharing things back and forth. So we collaborate a lot. Our team doesn't have any responsibility related to the USA Games, which actually makes me happy because I'm looking forward to going there and just enjoying it. It's by all accounts, it sounds like it's going to be fantastic. Disney's producing the opening ceremony. Orlando knows how to put on events. ESPN's excited. They've brought on some big partners. The ambassadors they're rolling out look like they're ridiculously good. It should be really, really cool. I'm excited about going. I got to say, I was talking to somebody about this today. I said my two favorite events so far have been the Latin American regional games in Panama, because I had no responsibility. And then I went to an international tennis event in Santo Domingo, and again, had no responsibility. So to be able to go something, to watch sport, maybe hand out a medal is totally cool, and not to have your phone or people just calling you. And so I'm looking forward to Orlando. Orlando's going to be great. Whoever's going is going to have a fantastic time. In fact, I'm going to bring my family. I live in Atlanta, and we're going to drive down. It's going to be fantastic.
All right, thanks, Nicholas. So I think that's all our questions for tonight, Lou. And unfortunately, we lost Jim Downs, but we do have Jim Schmutz. So I'm going to ask if he wants to, if he would like to say something. So.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I'll be quick. Lou, thanks again for being on. It was great to listen in on everything that you were able to share with our athletes. It was very insightful. The Kazan piece is really valuable, and I think I know our fellow U.S. programs would be really happy to hear everything that you described there. So thanks really for taking the time to be on and giving our athletes the time that you did this evening. Justin and Jim, you guys are doing it. Jason, you said Jim is off, but you guys are doing a great job. RJ, thanks for producing it. And all the athletes that were on, you guys are great. It's unbelievably fun to just talk sports, and you got a good one tonight. Lou talked about ABC Wild World of Sports. That took me back for sure. Just unbelievable stuff. And Lou, I'll look forward to catching up with you soon, man. But really,
absolutely. No, I couldn't have enjoyed this more. And now it's funny, I'm giving Chris Winston a hard time because he's friends with Dan the Podman, and I'm trying to get another gig. I want to get on the Dan the Podman show. So I told Chris, I said, you got to help a brother out. I'm going on Maryland, loving it. You got to get me on Dan's. So anytime you guys want, if you want any sort of information, work through Jason. Happy to have other people come on. If anything we could do to help you guys, 100% there. This is like my favorite thing. So
awesome.
Thanks, RJ. We didn't get a chance to talk MMA. I know you roll and do BJJ, but at some point you and I will have to catch up and talk a little MMA and a little Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So you guys, everybody take care of yourselves. Stay safe.
All right.
Good. Thanks.
Thanks, Lou. All right, so we still have some time left in our show for a last take from Justin, and then I'm going to have to take over Jim's 5 quiz questions because unfortunately his internet was a little unstable. So Justin, you want to give us your take of the week, please?
Tiger Woods was involved in a high-speed car accident where he had multiple comminuted open fractures to both his tibia and fibula and his right leg, as well as damage to his ankle bones and trauma to his muscle and soft tissue of his leg. Tiger is recovering from his injuries after surgery, where he had pins and plates inserted into his right leg and ankle. He has a long history of working hard to recover from previous surgeries. We look forward to hearing more about Tiger's recovery and hope he can make a comeback to the PGA Tour. The great Tiger Woods has overcome so many injuries. He has made so many comebacks, and he is the toughest man. If he wants to play golf again, he will make a comeback. He is, in my honest opinion, the greatest golfer of all time. I am hopeful that he will bounce back once again and win another Masters. If and when Tiger wins another Masters, I will be crying happy tears. We'll be so emotional.
All right, I don't see him coming on. So I'm going to transition to our 5 quiz questions. So let me go to the polls. These are questions. Jim has put his top 5 questions in honor of our guest tonight from Special Olympics and talking about World Games. So here is question number 1. So in 2011, this Special Olympics Maryland soccer team became the only soccer team to represent the United States at the World Games in Athens, Greece. Is it the Lower Shore, St. Mary's County, Allegheny County, or Frederick County? The only Special Olympics Maryland soccer team to represent the U.S. at the World Summer Games in Athens, Greece. So, all right, we're going to end the polling, and 50% of you say it's St. Mary's County, and you would be correct. St. Mary's County went to Athens, Greece in 2011. So excellent for that. I'm going to share the results. Question 2, World Games locations. Here we go. This Ivy League school hosted the 1995 Special Olympics World Summer Games in Connecticut. What Ivy League school hosted the 95 Special Olympics World Games in Connecticut? Harvard, Brown, Yale, or Princeton? So 95. Some of you may not have been born yet. I wonder. You may not know that, but you may. Some of us have been around since then. So give you a few more seconds. Ivy League school, 1995. Here we go. We're going to end the polling. And the majority, 47% of you, share the results, said Yale. And if you said Yale, you would be correct. The games in 95 were hosted in Yale. Congratulations if you got that answer. Sports quiz number 3. Busy. This athlete has competed in 6 World Games. Dana Schultz, Dustin Plunkett, Ben Collins, or Loretta Claiborne. So Dana Schultz from Wisconsin, Dustin Plunkett from Southern California, Ben Collins from Maryland, Loretta Claiborne from Pennsylvania. 6 World Games. Can you imagine? I've seen some things. Very good. We'll give you a few more seconds on this. And I think that this athlete has done it in multiple sports, not the same sport. So we'll end the polling there. And we'll share the results. So 57% of you said Loretta Claiborne. If you said that, you are correct. Loretta Claiborne has been to 6 World Games. So good job for that. Polling question number 4. Special Olympics Maryland was a leader in this sport, so much so that it was added to the Special Olympics Team USA offerings in 2011. So Special Olympics Maryland was a leader in this sport, and advocated that it be added to Team USA when they went to Greece in 2011. Your choices are kayak, bocce, sailing, and cricket. I appreciate that no one's put in cricket so far. So, not that I'm saying it's wrong, but I'm just, I don't think North America has cricket, but all right, let's end the poll, see what you guys said. All right, so we have 47% of you said kayak. That is true. Kayak is the sport that Maryland sent 2 athletes to Athens with, 2 athletes from Texas. That was the first time in Special Olympics Team USA history that kayak was part of their delegation. So, and our last question of the called Going Global. In 2003, this country hosted the first ever Special Olympics World Summer Games outside the United States. Was it Athens, Tokyo, Ireland, or London? So up until that point, most of the games, all of the games had been held in the US. But in 2003, this country hosted the first ever outside the US. Votes everywhere. It's getting close. All right, I'll give you a few more seconds. All right, 3, 2, 1. We're going to end the polling and share the results. So 47% of you said Ireland. If you said you're Ireland, then you have the luck of the Irish with you, because that is indeed where the first games outside of the US was held. So congratulations to you. Athens was 2011. Tokyo, I'm actually forgetting now. London, we've never been to. So that was just a trick. So, all right, we're going to stop sharing the results. So that was Jim's top 5 quiz. And I see that Jim is back and I see that Justin is back. I'm going to unmute you both and you guys can take us home.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the show and continues to join us. We will be back on March 18th. Have a good night and be safe.
This is Justin with the Justin and Jim Show on Zoom. Hope you all enjoy your evening and keep following us on our Zoom show. Thank you very much.
So you've been enjoying the Justin and Jim Sports Talk Show. Join us in 2 weeks on March 18th as we talk to Keith Mills. Keith is a longtime sportscaster from Baltimore. He has covered sports for more than 25 years with WBAL TV. We will also talk more about sports in the DMV and Special Olympics Maryland. Have a good night. And again, thanks for joining the Justin and Jim Sports Talk Show.